Chapter 4. Jackie Fern had a strange dream that night in which he was surfing with juggling clowns. He didn't know what to make of it, or if there was something to make of it in the first place. But, seeing as he was awake now, and Laurvelle hadn't called for him, he figured he had some free time to use as he pleased. Jackie's apartment was fairly small, but it suited him. His bedroom had just his bed, nightstand, closet, and a wardrobe with a mirror on top. His living room had a television and an L sofa, as well as a small dining table in the corner right next to the entrance, where the kitchen was. He also had a balcony overlooking Palavera City's central district, which in turn meant he could watch the city nightlife. Over the past 2 months since he got this job, he had watched the movement of cars, helicopters, and even flying saucers. Had he seen them before moving to Palavera, he would have been horrified to know that there were, in fact, aliens out there coexisting with people. But now that he had met one and heard the story, it was just traffic to watch. Jackie stepped out onto his balcony and leaned against a railing, watching the people go about their lives. As always, it was nighttime, and the people were on their way to or from work. He watched as a flying saucer approached the Monbella building, only to then hover right in front of Jackie's balcony. The cockpit opened up, revealing that the saucer was being flown by Varlo, the proprietor of Astro Coffee. "Was poppin', home slice?" Popping off a wackadoo as usual. What about you?" "The wackadoo do be poppin'. Is Laurvelle up yet? I have some business with him, and it seemed pretty urgent." "I didn't know he even spoke with you." "No, we haven't spoken since I dropped you guys off here last night. But Marimelia was with him in his dream, and she says Laurvelle needs to talk to me about an offer." "Wait, his AI entered his dreams?" "Yeah, he consented to it. You didn't know it was a thing?" "No, I thought dreams are, well, yours. Nobody else's, you know?" Varlo shrugged. "Maybe that's the case back in your homeland, but it doesn't have to be that way here in Palavera. Probably the same goes for the rest of Parsi. You can dream on your own, but that's time you can spend with others too. So, a lot of us aware folk have shared dreams, mostly to socialize." "Wait, what do you mean by aware folk?" "It's simple, really. In all of Parsi, there's two types of people. Those who notice the anomalies of cryptids and are aware that things are crazy, and those who don't notice any of it. You and I can see it all. Hell, I use a flying saucer on a nightly basis. And even though everybody out here can see it and even acknowledge it, not everybody makes that mental connection between this exists and that's weird." "Oh, that makes sense." Laurvelle seemed to be interested in hiring me as soon as he realized that I had noticed a dust devil and was shocked by its existence. Also, what's Parsi? I've never heard that phrase before. "Really? Where are you from, Jackie?" "Far away." "Well, as little as that helps me, I can still explain Parsi for you. We're in Palavera City, and then there's Varia to the south, Vilka to the east. Don't confuse those two. And to the south of Vilka is Loris Valley. These four cities, along with all the unincorporated space between them, makes up Parsi, which stands for Palavera Autonomous Region of Connaughton. You've heard of Connaughton, right?" "Yeah, that's the whole world." "Well, there you go. Now you know what people mean by Parsi. Now, you said that Laurvelle's still asleep?" "Yeah, either that or he hasn't had reason to wake me up yet." "Okay. Then I'll go park my saucer on the rooftop, and then I'll wait for him in the common room. No point in waking him up, seeing as I don't have any leads on cryptids or anomalies for you guys to investigate. So, if there's no money to be made, then there's time to be wasted." "All right. I'll go check on him, just in case." Varlo nodded and closed the cockpit, slowly raising his flying saucer until it was on the rooftop, where he carefully parked it and then climbed out. Jackie, on the other hand, had returned to his bedroom to get dressed, changing out of his sleep robe and into a proper outfit, jeans and a t-shirt from his favorite band, Omen of Disaster. Once he was ready, Jackie left his apartment, turning around and facing the door to his place as he closed it. "Okay, door, lock up for me." Without speaking, the door locked itself up. Jackie smiled and looked out to the main hallway, following it to the common room where Varlo was now waiting. The common room had a small old television, two sofas, and a communal kitchen with a dining table, almost designed to be a second apartment for the residents of the Monbella building's top floor. The landlady also lived on this floor, and Varlo was now sitting next to her, the two of them watching a sport that Jackie didn't recognize. The landlady was an elderly woman, and she was quick to notice Jackie. "What's poppin', home slice?" Popping off a wackadoo. Did I miss anything? The landlady shook her head. Slow night. Much slower than I would like. Still, we need more ingredients for trail mix. If you have time, get some for me, and in exchange I'll make some for you. Okay, that sounds like a good idea. I'm gonna go check on Laurvelle, if that's alright with you. You want to talk to Varlo about something? The landlady nodded and turned to watch the television again. The two of you pay your rent on time, sometimes early. Who am I to tell you what you can or can't do? Laurvelle's loft was on the rooftop, right next to the emergency stairs. There was also a landing pad on the Monbella rooftop, which Varlo's saucer was now resting on. As Jackie reached the rooftop, he couldn't help but marvel at the flying saucer, wondering if he could ever have one of his own. But he doubted it, especially since his own mentor, Laurvelle, didn't have one. Instead, Laurvelle drove a van around the city. Laurvelle had given Jackie a very simple rule, and that was to never open a door to his loft without permission. But hopefully, checking on him was enough permission. And so, Jackie opened the door to Laurvelle's loft and stepped inside without looking. Laurvelle's loft was on the rooftop, right next to the emergency stairs. There was also a landing pad on the Monbella rooftop, which Varlo's saucer was now resting on. As Jackie reached the rooftop, he couldn't help but marvel at the flying saucer, wondering if he could ever have one of his own. But he doubted it, especially since his own mentor, Laurvelle, didn't have one. Instead, Laurvelle drove a van around the city. Laurvelle had given Jackie a very simple rule, and that was to never open the door to his loft without permission. But hopefully, checking on him was enough permission, and so, Jackie opened the door to Laurvelle's loft and stepped inside without looking. Laurvelle's loft was on the rooftop, right next to the emergency stairs. There was also a landing pad on the Monbella rooftop, which Varlo's saucer was now resting on. As Jackie reached the rooftop, he couldn't help but... Wait a minute. I was already here. Wait, this is my third time getting up here. How did... What? Jackie opened the door to Laurvelle's loft again and, for once, looked inside. Surprisingly, he noticed that the interior of Laurvelle's loft was, in fact, the same rooftop that he was currently standing on. And even stranger, if he peered in and looked at just the right direction, he could see himself looking into the loft. What exactly was happening right now? What are you looking at? The voice came from right next to his ear, and Jackie couldn't help but scream and jump through the doorway and back out onto the rooftop. But there was nobody there. He knew that because he had been looking at himself when he heard that voice. And looking back the way he came, he could only see the stairs leading down to the Monbella building's interior. But if there was nobody there, and the loft didn't lead anywhere, then where was Laurvelle? Laurvelle had to be somewhere on the rooftop since Varlo hadn't mentioned his disappearance. Jackie looked around and walked past Varlo's saucer, eventually seeing what appeared to be a body floating just off the edge of the rooftop. Laurvelle! Jackie sprinted to the edge and confirmed that Laurvelle was indeed floating in the air, still fast asleep. Hold on, I'll get you back onto the building. Just as Jackie's hand reached Laurvelle, Laurvelle's body began to float away, now levitating above the busy street. Jackie screamed in panic, and Laurvelle finally woke up and looked at Jackie. What's poppin'? Laurvelle, what are you doing? I was sleeping, obviously. What are you doing up here? Trying to get you back on solid ground. Get over here. Laurvelle calmly stood up, still floating in the air. What's there to worry about? I'm fine, aren't I? If anything, you're the one panicking. Laurvelle, you're going to fall. That's why I'm panicking. Laurvelle laughed and looked down at the street below him. Fall? I don't want to fall. And so, I decided to just not fall. Besides, sleeping in the air is very comfortable because there's no hard, pointy springs. Well, there's no cushioning either, but it's hard to hurt your back when you're not laying on it in the first place. You should try it sometime. As Laurvelle walked back onto the building, Varlo emerged from the stairs and approached the two men. What's with all the shouting up here? The landlady and I could hear from the floor below you. Jackie pointed at Laurvelle, who was now standing behind him. He was sleeping in midair. What if he fell? Varlo shrugged. He was like that when I arrived. It's not a big deal. Not if you're Laurvelle. Speaking of which, I heard he had business with me. Laurvelle nodded and pointed at his loft. Yeah, come on in. Jackie, could you wait for me in the common room? While you're at it, get ready for a mission. We're headed to the Palavera Desert to check out a cold crime scene. Laurvelle and Varlo opened the door to the loft, and Jackie could see that it was normal now. Oh, so when you open the door, it's normal, but when I open the door, it just sends me back outside? That's not fair. Laurvelle stopped and turned around while Varlo continued into the loft. You mean to tell me you went to my place without my permission? Told you not to do that, didn't I? Well, yeah, but what difference does it make? We're partners, Laurvelle. The difference is that it's my private space, just like how you have your apartment. I don't go into your place unless you want me there, and you shouldn't go into my place unless I want you there, either. Anyway, go get ready for an investigation while Varlo and I talk business, alright? Fine, I'll go get dressed. Laurvelle's loft was small, even smaller than Jackie's apartment. There was just enough space for a bed with a wall-mounted television directly facing it, a tiny kitchen beside the doorway, a dresser beneath the television, a few folding tables leaning against the wall, plus one right in front of the bed, and a tiny bathroom at the end of the loft right next to the door to the balcony. There was hardly any space, but Laurvelle preferred it that way, especially since he could change how large or small it was depending on his mood. Take a seat on the bed, Varlo. I'll prepare some tea for us. Why not coffee? Because you're the barista, not me, and I'd rather not disappoint the master. Varlo scoffed and sat down on the bed. My gimmick isn't quality, it's convenience. Everybody knows that. Now, what's your business proposal? Laurvelle put a kettle on the stove and lit a fire beneath it. I need some reconnaissance work done on the desert sweepers. You're kidding. I'm serious. Laurvelle, they're your friends. Who was it that saved your ass when Desert's car crashed? The desert sweepers, that's who. And now you're telling me you want to spy on them? You're crazy, desperate, or idiotic. So, which one are you? Desperate. Varlo sighed and leaned forward, reaching for the TV remote and turning it on. What's the story? You gotta have a reason to ask this of me, so what is it? Laurvelle waved his hand at the TV, making it tune into the memory that he and Marimelia had visited during his dream. Take a look at what happened, and tell me what sticks out. Because something doesn't add up, I know it. Varlo looked at the screen, narrating what he was seeing. Exactly what you told me before. Nothing new. Car crashes, you nearly pass out, and then the desert sweepers arrive and rescue you. Look again. Check the very last frame. Alright, but I don't get what the fuss is about. That's the desert sweepers arriving on the scene, but I don't get why you're so... They're already there, Varlo. Before I even pass out, they're arriving. How did they know that the car would crash? It could be a coincidence. Maybe they were already passing by and watched it happen. It's not something impossible. Okay, and is it a coincidence that even though they watched the crash and were already there, they didn't see Desser? Varlo, how did they not see Desser? What are you implying, Laurvelle? By now, Varlo was frowning and staring at the last frame on the screen. Laurvelle was watching the kettle, keeping the lid off so he could watch the bubbles. Eventually, Varlo spoke again. This time, his voice was quieter. You think they had something to do with the crash? You think they planned it to happen? Laurvelle shook his head, still watching the bubbles. No, Desser's words confirmed that she was the one who planned it. But the desert sweepers were in on it. I'm sure of that. I just don't know why. I don't know why they failed to rescue Desser or why the police didn't see her either. That's the information I want. I want to know where she went, and I have a feeling that the desert sweepers know exactly where she is. Alright, so you want a pair of eyes and ears around them. I can arrange that for you, sure. What are you offering in return? A favor. Varlo leaned back and thought about this for a moment. You're lucky you're offering that to me, Laurvelle. I know a handful of people who treat favors like gold. Alright, you got yourself a deal, as much as it hurts me to distrust the desert sweepers. Anything else you want to discuss? Laurvelle shook his head and handed Varlo a paper cup with tea. For the ride home, I brewed you some Meldon tea. Meldon? Where'd you get it? I asked around, overpaid for it, and now it's yours. Well, I appreciate it. Will you want to ride to the crash site? Laurvelle thought about it and then opened the door for Varlo. No, I'll be driving my van to the site. There's a good chance I come across the desert sweepers while I'm there, so I'd rather have the ride in case my plans change. Just focus on your part of the deal and we'll be fine. Alright then, Laurvelle. I'll be seeing you later. Meet me at Astro Coffee and I'm sure I'll find some work for you and Jackie. A few minutes later, Laurvelle went down to the common room where he found Jackie sitting and watching TV with the landlady, who was talking about trail mix. The biggest mistake I see people make is add Brazil nuts. Sure, they're big and crunchy, but they contain lots of selenium, and if somebody eats too many Brazil nuts on a daily basis, they'll get acute radiation sickness. Jackie wasn't paying attention to the profound wisdom that the landlady was offering him, and his head jumped up when he saw Laurvelle. Time for work? Yeah, time for work. We'll take my van to the crash site. The landlady looked up at Laurvelle and frowned. Going back? Yeah, is that a problem? The landlady sighed and turned to watch TV again. I just hope you know what you're doing. Bring me trail mix ingredients while you're at it. No Brazil nuts. Got it, no Brazil nuts. Laurvelle and Jackie stepped into the elevator, and Laurvelle pressed a button for the parking floor. His van was waiting for them, with Marimelia having already unlocked the doors and started the engine. You guys ready to go? Laurvelle climbed into the driver's seat, and Jackie rode shotgun. Let's go. Marimelia smiled and locked the doors for them. All right, I'll drive the car for us. Just sit back, relax, and I'll let you know when we arrive. All aboard the Marimelia Express. Mission 1. Desert Memories.